it's Dr. Sophia Satterwhite, founder and CEO of She Heals the World. I'm so happy that you are tuning in to today's episode to hear the top lifestyle and business tips from women entrepreneurs all around the globe. If you found this show helpful, be sure to share it with a friend. That's how our community grows. Today's guest is coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome to the She Heals the World talk show. So today we are talking all about productivity. And I could not have this conversation without inviting the amazing Murielle Marie to the show, who is a coach, and she specifically supports entrepreneurs, and she's so passionate about being soulfully productive. She's going to share her story with us and give you some tips on how you as an entrepreneur can make the most of your day. Murielle, welcome to the show.
Hi, Sophia. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. So can you tell us, how did you personally get started with your work?
Thank you. That's a great question to start with. So I studied philosophy at university. And when I was in my last year of philosophy, I was approached by a friend of a friend who was looking for someone to, at the time, because we're talking about a really different time, going on more than 20 years now. So I was asked by this friend if I could take on the role of project manager for a company that wanted to do the transition between what was at the time print media into the digital world. So that's really how my story started. So as somebody who always, from a very young age, had this tendency to very naively, I have to add, say yes to opportunities, I went for it. And so I started project managing the first web sort of projects that were around at the time. And from there, I then built first a freelance business. Then I built an actual web company. Then I had that for 10 years. I did a successful exit from there. And that's more or less when I transitioned into the coaching business that I have today, which is going to be close to 7 years ago now.
Wow, amazing. And so can you tell us exactly, as a coach today, how do you spend your day? What does a productive day look like for you?
That's a beautiful question. So I think the biggest thing for me here is that I spend my days in freedom. And I think it's really important to underline that when we talk about productivity, because very often when we think productivity, we think hustle, we think, being busy, we think doing all of the things, we think to be doing. And of course, we need to do stuff. That's a given. But more than that, we need to be very aware of the things that we're supposed to do that are going to be good for our business and for ourselves, and then all of the stuff that we actually don't have to do. So a productive day for me is a day where I don't have to rush, where I know in advance what I'm going to do, where there is room for flexibility. Maybe something comes up, or maybe, I have a creative idea and then I have a little bit of time set aside that I can do something with that. It's also a day that I'm working on specific things that are helping me move forward with my dreams and goals. But it's a day that I can end at a certain moment as well, and that hasn't overwhelmed me and left me feeling as if I've done something good and I'm done for the day.
Amazing. I can imagine now that, you have such a freedom-filled business as a coach, that when you first got started, it wasn't always this easy. It didn't always feel so effortless. And so what hurdles did you specifically overcome when you were going through the building process of building your coaching business?
That is, first I want to say, Sophia, that is so true, because I can talk about soulful productivity now as this beautiful thing, as if it's what I've always done. But I basically went in search of it because I wasn't doing things that way at all. I was very overwhelmed. I was often exhausted. There was no difference between my days and my evenings and my free time and my work time. So I wanted to do all of the things, and the structure wasn't right. So there are many hurdles. But to answer your question, I think the biggest one that I had to overcome was to understand that success wasn't measured on a daily basis by the amount of things that I had done. Because it's so easy to get caught up in this relentless pursuit of our to-do list, like just being able to tick things off, and it's as if we're doing good. But that's actually being busy. It's not being productive. And so I had to figure out a way to not get gratification anymore for having a very long to-do list and having a lot of things that I would tick off that list, because that list wasn't a representation of what was actually helping me move my business forward. It was a representation of all the ideas that I had and all of the stuff that I had read about and seen other people do that I thought I should be doing too. So the biggest hurdle probably was to become very clear about the things that were going to help my business forward and all of the other things that I didn't have to do, and then have the courage, because that's really what it's about. Have a lot of courage to let go of all those other things and decide I'm never going to do them.
I love that. I love that. So, so far, now that you have been in this work, what do you have to celebrate? What's been your greatest win?
There's been a few. I think my greatest win is that I can actually make a difference in my clients' lives. Mm-hmm. I get such a high, and I don't know, maybe this is something you have to, or you experience as well. I get such a high when I see a client understanding, because a lot of my work, productivity work, in my opinion, is a little bit like mindset work. So a lot of my work is also around mindset and overcoming blocks and fears, because a lot of the times we do things based on what we think we have to do and not really based on what we actually should be doing. Seeing a client get it, seeing how once they overcome a block, they get unstuck in something that wasn't working for them, and see how everything becomes so much easier for them and how freer they are. I would say that's my biggest success. I think that would always be my biggest. And then on a personal level, I think being able to make this coaching business my full-time business, while I'm also receiving and having the ability to have so much free time to express myself in other ways, other creative ways. I think that's a big success for me.
Well, we've been talking a lot about freedom in this episode, and I know that for the women out there who are working their full-time jobs and trying to balance building a business at the same time, they feel so far away from being free, or even having any kind of space in their day to really enjoy life. And I get asked the question all the time, how do I balance my career and my job responsibilities and the thing that's paying the bills right now with this business that I want to create that is going to provide me more time and more freedom, and if not, at least give me the opportunity to do what I love. So what hacks and tips do you have for women entrepreneurs who are busy and overwhelmed? Maybe they have a family, maybe they're in a busy job, maybe they're trying to balance two jobs. How can women entrepreneurs make the most of their day?
I think the first thing is they need to be really clear about the stuff they have to do. And that means, because I can imagine, if you have a full-time job, if you have a family on top of that, and you want to start a side business, or you have a project, creative or whatever that you want to build on the side, it's hard. You come home at night, or whenever you're free, and then the second shift starts, and maybe sometimes the third one, after the kids and everything. So if you are then confronted to a massive list of things to do, if you are then confronted to too many options because you haven't been clear about the one or two or three things that you actually have to do, and haven't like weeded out everything else, it's going to be so easy for you to get overwhelmed. So a first tip would be try to become really clear about the stuff you actually have to do, because the reality is it's probably only 20 or 30% of what you think you should be doing. So that then eliminates a lot of the overwhelm. And then the second thing that I think is really valuable and sort of a secret, right, is use the compound effect to your advantage. Now, the compound effect is this concept which comes from mostly the financial world, I'd say, where if you invest a small amount of money every day or week or month, over time, that amount of money is going to become a massive amount of money, right? So I've made it super simple, but that's the idea. Now, the compound effect works for building a business too. It's so much better, I find, to spend 15 minutes, 30 minutes every day on really crystal clear actions that are going to help your business, rather than forcing yourself to spend hours on all of these different tasks that you think you might have to do for your business. But then because you have done, I don't know, exhausted yourself working a complete weekend at it, then maybe 2-3 weeks go by and you do nothing. I much rather have you would work on it every day, even if it's only for a little while. And so if it's okay, Safia, I'd love to give an example here of what that compound effect can look like in practice. So I've always wanted to write a book. And I know a lot of people have these sort of like really mountain-like projects, because for me it was like, whoa, that must be a massive amount of work, which it is. Let's be fair, it's a lot of work. But in August of last year, I decided I was going to start, and I told myself, just practice what you preach. Spend 30 minutes every day in the morning writing. That's the only thing you have to do. So by January of this year, the beginning of January, so the turn of 20 to 21, I had a complete book, 120,000 words in a draft. And then I told myself, so that was an accomplishment, but it hadn't been hard, because the only thing I told myself to do was sit at your desk in the morning and just write for 30 minutes. It doesn't matter if what you write is beautiful prose, or if it really isn't exactly what you want, or if you wouldn't have anyone, ever read this draft. That's not the point. Just write. So I've done that. And so since January now, I've started the editing process, and I'm doing exactly the same thing. So I'm doing 30 minutes every day, and I'm at the end of chapter 2 in the editing process. So now this draft of 120,000 words is actually becoming a real book. Wow. And so that's what I want to give people, that it doesn't need to be a lot, because it compounds if you do it every day. But you have to do it every day.
I love that. I think that the compound effect, it works in so many different areas. And I'm even thinking of, specifically for these women who are working in their businesses, that's a great way of also looking at getting clients, doing a little bit every day to help you move towards landing or signing your first client and then getting your next if you're in the coaching space or in a service-based industry. How much time do you recommend for entrepreneurs to spend on their business every day if they are working a full-time job?
Well, I think what you just said, Safia, is so true. And I think it's fundamental. So I think you've touched on something that's so incredibly important. You don't have a business if you don't have customers. I think we can agree on that. So if you have little time and you want to spend, whatever time you have, maybe 30 minutes, an hour a day, on your business, or even every other day, depending on what feels good for you, because rest is also productive, right? Watching Netflix is also necessary to be able to be your best self when you're actually working on your business. So it's really a balancing act. But let's say you say you're going to spend 30 minutes a day on your business. don't spend it on things that aren't essential. If 30 minutes is the only thing you have a day, spend it, as you were saying, on finding customers. Spend it on being visible. Spend it on making partnerships with other potential people in your network that can help you to find clients and sell your services. Because all of the other things, they can come later. Of course, it's interesting to have a website. It's interesting to be on Instagram. All of those things are interesting and they have their purpose. But if you're limited on time because you have a full-time job, what you want, I think, and that's my humble opinion, so I'm not saying, I have all of the wisdom here, but based on my own experience, what I always tried to do was, first, I want to see if I can sell this. Like before I do all of these other things and before I really exhaust myself building all of these other things, is there actually a business here? And I think you can accomplish that in 30 minutes a day.
Wow. Well, what I think you touched on that is so important is that the question isn't necessarily how much time, but the question is, what are you spending that time on, and prioritizing the right tasks so that you create the right movement and the right momentum that will help you accomplish things faster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the secret. But that's the secret, right? But it's so difficult. I understand how complicated it is because it's probably been one of my biggest blocks as well. Like trying to do all of the things and being, like pushed in one direction when I was actually going in another one. Oh, by the way, if I may, that's also something that I think is one of these tips or even like rules of entrepreneurship almost, is stick to what you decide. Like I see so many promising, talented women entrepreneurs starting things. They work very hard to create a course, for instance. And then they put their course out there. And immediately when they do that, whether they have a little bit of success, a lot of success, no success with the course, they start working on the next one. But the thing is, when the course is out there, that's the beginning of the work. It's not the end of the line. It's the beginning of it. That's when you have to tweak it, fine tune it, market it, talk about it, etc., etc. So it's really about discerning, like, is this the best way for me to spend this valuable time that I have because it's so limited?
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if we can pivot a little bit and talk about the way that you start your day, or if you have any advice for folks who start their day, because I find that there could be a little bit of a correlation between how productive you feel and how you kick your day off. And I haven't done the research on this, but I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Well, I definitely think it's true. So the way that I spend my days is that I reserve the first hours of the day. So first I have a morning routine. So I will journal. I will eat a very light breakfast so that I stay clear, in my head. And then after I've journaled, well, now I write, and then I move from that into the most important and critical activities of my day. So there is this. I think it's a quote, or at least it's something that I've heard a lot, and probably also a lot of productivity gurus talk about it. Like, do the most annoying tasks first in your day, right? Like, do the stuff you don't want to do, right? Yes. I don't agree with that. I think actually when you're when you're just woken up and you've just, in my case, journaled, and your mind is so calm and peaceful, do the stuff that matters most. Like, do the stuff that's going to move your business forward. And even if that means that, you have this thing that you don't want to do and you're going to have to do it today, but do it with a little bit less energy if it's not essential to the success of your business. First, focus on that one task that moves the needle for you. And I think if you do that, then that means that by noon, you actually won at your day, right? Yes. And so everything that comes after, first, you're going to have these good hormones that tell you you're doing a good job. So you're going to want to work a little bit more. Not every day, unfortunately, we're only human, but, sometimes. And then even if what you do after isn't really moving the needle, or if you get down a rabbit hole, or if you stall a little bit, it's fine because you already did that. So you already moved, your business forward for the day.
I love that. Now, there are going to be people who are like, listen, Murielle, I have 5 children and I have to get them up for school. And, my husband needs me to make him breakfast so that he's fueled for the day.
Mm-hmm.
How can I find time for a morning routine? That's the question that's coming. What would be your response to that?
Well, thanks for the question, Sophia. It's a very true one. You know that I receive this question in my mailbox very regularly. And I used to, and I'm talking about like 5-6 years ago, when I still hadn't developed this whole soulful productivity sort of concept myself, I would answer having a lot of empathy for the situation, of the people sending me these emails. But I would still advise them to try and, make it work and find some time in their morning. I've really come to see things differently. And if you are not able to find time for yourself in the morning, I think that's fine. Maybe you can have a couple of minutes to yourself before you get up, that moment between like actually already being awake, but not completely being ready to get up yet. Maybe those minutes can be your minutes of reflection. Maybe that's when you can set an intention for your day. And then, of course, life is there, so you have to do a number of things. So it's not about having a morning routine. It might be about having an afternoon routine or having a my moment in the day kind of thing. What I think is the most important, it's not so much when you do it, right? Because I'm also not a fan or an advocate of get up at 5 a.m. and then right? Yes. Some people do it. That's really great for them. It's not me. Like I would be really unhappy all day if I had to do that. So I also don't want to push morning routines on people, but I want to push routine on them. And routine for me is habits, rituals, and disciplines that you can find 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes for each and every day. That's going to be really essential, not mourning or grieving the fact that you don't have all that time in the morning to yourself, because that's just arbitrary.
I 100% agree with you, and I have never heard anyone else share this same view. And I feel so excited and grateful that we met because I 100% can back this. I am not a morning person at all. I do believe in having routines and rituals. However, a lot of times, sometimes my mornings, quote unquote, may not start until 10:30. Or if I do happen to go to bed early the night before because something happened and that just allowed it, and I get up early, then they may start at 7 a.m. But I am not part of the 5 a.m. club, and I have no desire to be, ever. And I will never be, ever.
Well, me neither. So yes, we found each other, Sophia. Yeah.
Well, Murielle, this has been so helpful. I would love to see if you have any final pieces of how women entrepreneurs can make the most of their day.
Well, I'd love to. I think the most important thing, because I've spoken a lot about discipline and habits and rituals, and sometimes that can also turn into something that feels a little constrictive, like as if again you're pressured into doing this or that, and there is no freedom in that anymore. So I think I want to end by saying it's okay to not do that all of the time, as long as you do it the majority of the time. It's okay to have a little bit of slack for yourself and to sometimes decide not to work on your business, especially if you already have a full-time job and you have other commitments. So compassion and really listening to what you need as a human being, to what your body needs, to what your mind needs, and giving yourself the rest, that you deserve, I think is essential to be your most soulfully productive self. So I wanted to add that in there because a lot of people often think discipline is at the opposite of compassion, rest, and like leisure for yourself. But I think they work together. And it's important to keep both in balance.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now that you have kind of evolved to where you are in life and business, if you could look back and give your 10-year younger self any piece of advice, what would it be?
There's so much I want to tell her. How long do I get?
Darling, as long as you need.
Thank you. I think I would write her a very long letter and I would say, look, listen, this. But anyway, I think there's two things that I would really love for my younger self to have known. The first one is, don't try to do it all right now. Like, you have plenty of time. It's better to be focused and have a little bit of discipline, because I can talk about it now, but it's definitely not always been my life, right? I'm more creative than disciplined to start with. So it's an acquired sort of skill. So I would tell her, like, slow down a little bit and, focus on a thing and try to really do a good job at this thing and learn how you work the best to achieve the best results. So that would be the first thing. And the second thing would be, don't doubt yourself so much. Do it. Be visible, talk to people about what it is you want to do. Don't be afraid, because you can really do this. So I would love to inspire her to go after her dreams maybe a little bit. And I have done that, right? So in a way, I've always moved towards my dreams, but I've also had a lot of fears and insecurities as I was moving into this entrepreneur that I am today. And it would have been great if I started with a little bit more confidence in myself.
Beautiful. And I agree 100% too. I think, I don't talk as much about if I could look back and tell my 10-year younger self anything, but that confidence piece, if you can just own that as early as possible, you will be so much farther. It is such a key element. Very, very key.
That confidence piece would have been so great for every aspect of our lives, wouldn't it?
Yeah, totally, 100%. How can our audience find and support you, Murielle? You've dropped some dimes, and I know you have more goodness on your social media accounts and on your site, and we just want to love on you. So how can our audience find and support you?
So I'm pretty active on Instagram at Murielle Marie. So everybody's welcome to go and check out my profile and comment and get into a conversation with me there. I have a free Soulful Productivity Challenge on my website that you can find at muriellemarie.com. So maybe that's interesting for any aspiring entrepreneur or entrepreneur that's listening today. And please just get in touch with me. What I love the most is when people ask me questions and when I can support people. So don't hesitate if, anything that I've said or that, transpired today hasn't inspired you, or if you want to know more, please get in touch with me. You can do that either through Instagram. I always respond to a DM, or via email at muriellemarie.com.
Murielle, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and I can't wait to have you back.
Thank you so much, Safia. It was such a pleasure to be here. I had so much fun.
Well, there you have it. Thanks for listening to the She Heals the World talk show with Dr. S.
To learn more about how to live your life by design, grab a freebie at shehealstheworld.com/freebie.